I was mentioning social media was just the fragmentation of media broadly and the opportunity that creates, but also the idea of what, these players, younger players, like everybody knows you. You are like a rock star. And the question that I wonder actually in this new social media universe is actually whether you can create a KD or...
Well, it's interesting you asked that because I just said to him yesterday that I think that this past era in the NBA may very well end up being the most famous era ever in professional basketball and sports to some degree. And that may not be able to be duplicated because this era grew up in the beginning of social media. Russell Westbrook, LeBron, Steph, this was products of this entire era on social media. Now for these young guys coming into the league, even a Wemby or an Ant, there's so much saturation, there's so much optionality, people's attention spans are lower than ever, desensitized to the point where they've seen this now, so there's no wow factor in it. And it's not to say that these aren't big stars, but this era, I could name 15, 20 guys from the last 2 decades in the NBA that are household names all over the country, some of them all over the world. That, I think, may not be duplicated because of the fact that the saturation is so extreme.
And then what's that going to do to sponsorship then?
Well, I mean, it's not that it changes sponsorship. Maybe the flow of deal opportunity could be less. Maybe the magnitude of some of it because it's so spread out. Money's spent on streamers, money's spent on influencers. The big stars are the big stars. Someone like Anthony Edwards is taking a very traditional model in that like all the brands are spending with him. But I do think that there's got to be more creativity probably, right? There's some athletes that come out of college, like a player, Jared McCain on the Sixers, who, he's a lottery pick, but this is not someone that I think everyone thought was a household name, but because of the brand he built for himself on TikTok, he's been very active in getting brand deals. So I think you have to bring a bit more to the table potentially than just winning, right? Like, which sucks because at the end of the day, he would always say to me when I'd say we should do more early in his career, I'd say we should do more brand deals, bro, we gotta get out there. And he's like, I just have to play in June. If I'm playing in June, all this will work out. And I think that's still true to an extent, but I think we've seen some players that have played in the finals that have won championships, and it's not necessarily connecting with people the same way that this generation did.
Yeah, so how do you think about that? Because I've always thought of you as a quiet guy, actually. And in this social media universe, whether you think you have to not just perform on the court, but perform.
No, I never. No. I always felt like I was catering to the basketball community only, and by doing that, it's just going out there and playing my game. I just felt like my game speaks for itself, to be honest. And I've done a lot of brand deals and commercials, and felt like I needed to advertise who I was, but I was just really getting in the way of what I really love to do, which was hang out with my friends, go to the gym, be normal, you know what I'm saying? So I always value my time more than anything, and always felt like the NBA platform, which is full of billions of people, I want to say it's the second most watched sport in the world. I felt like that's all I needed.
But that's a very, and the question though, I guess where I'm going with it is, you succeeded in that environment, and the question is, if you were talking to a 22-year-old on your team today, would you say do it exactly like I did it and it'll work for you?
I would say build your game up to be the best that you can be, and once you get on that platform of the NBA Finals, the playoffs, when you playing 7 games on and there's 5-6 million people watching every other night, that's when you be who you are. Don't try to change up your personality. Don't try too hard. Just be exactly who you are. Showcase your game, and then people are going to gravitate towards you.
Well, I would just say his method of going about it was his method of going about it. And it worked because, like he said, of what he was able to do on the court. He also did, at one point, have more brand deals than any player in the NBA. When I first started working with him, it was 13, 14 different brand deals. And there's some players that, if they ask Kevin for his advice, or if I speak to a young player, I think that if that's something you want to do, that's still a very viable path, especially if you're trying to get your face out there and you may not have the opportunity to play late into June. Mm-hmm. But I think what Kevin's been able to do is show that there's a different blueprint you can take you know, that less can be more, that your game can speak for itself. And it's not that he's not fulfilling his business desires where you don't see him, right? Like when we got to Silicon Valley, it was important for me when we first started meeting these people to have Kevin with me. I was still building the brand of who we were. And that to me is showing up, right, in business and delivering. It's just different.
Oh, there's another thing we haven't talked about, which I think is a huge component of you, the Olympics.
Yeah.
And Team USA. And you've been a consistent piece of that team for a very long time. Where does that factor into all of this?
I think it's a huge part. I feel like Team USA also presented that platform to put us on a big stage. I mean, so many people watching, and then having that pride for just playing for your country. I mean, it's a dream come true. You know, going to other countries and representing the United States and seeing that pride that everybody has for their country. It's a special thing. And you seen it last summer. You know, the Olympic coverage was just magical. We was just talking about it backstage, how iconic just those last few games were, just seeing us move around like that throughout the whole summer. I mean, words can't describe how that experience is, and I always advise young players, they get a chance to play for their country, to go do it. It's just an incredible experience.
Okay, so I assume you want to play in 28?
Yeah, if I'm still me. I don't want the gift of the veteran, like, to, you know, come sit on the end of the bench and get your fifth